there is really a whole lot of science behind watercolors. It kind of gives me new respect for it. Hello everyone! So today I want to take a look at these two little boxes that I received from Nila Colori a few months ago, and I've been so excited to try these out. This contains watercolors, but not just any kind of watercolors. These are actually handcrafted, and you can see some overflow of the paint around the edges of the pans. There are little bubbles and they're not perfectly even, which I really love, because it is just signs that they are really handmade and not mass-produced in a factory or anything, and even the color codes on the pans are handwritten. So Nila Colori is based in Italy, and all their watercolors are carefully made out of natural pigments like natural raw materials and minerals, and they use eco-friendly preservatives. What I find so fascinating is that on their website, where you can actually buy their watercolors, I'm not sponsored, but I will leave a link in the description box below. So under each color you can read exactly what they're made of, and also the history and origin behind the color pigments. Natural color pigments have been used by people since the beginning of times, basically, you know, the cave paintings and all. And Nila Colori are claiming that they do prepare some of their pigments the same way as they were prepared by people way back in time, which I personally think brings much more soul to the paints, if you could say that. So yeah, there is a lot of science behind these paints, and I can almost feel the passion that were used to create these. They also sent me a little booklet along with the paints with some information about the watercolors, and also a list of all their available colors. So here you can see the name and color codes of each color, but also the coloring agents and light fastness and transparency. I am not sure what CI means though, and yeah, maybe this is more for the watercolor nerds or experts or scientists perhaps, but light fastness and transparency is still something you would want to know even if you're not a professional. So a color that is light fast means that it can be exposed to sunlight without fading over time, and as you can see, most of these paints are actually highly light fast, besides this yellow here that got a little lower score, but it is great that it actually tells us that this color may fade over time. And transparency means if a color is see-through or not. The more transparent a color is, the more see-through it is. So a color with a 4 here is transparent, and the lower the number is, the more opaque the color is. So I think it's time to finally swatch these and see what they look like, and then I will paint something and let you guys know what I think about them. So the first set I'm gonna swatch is this wooden case with 12 half pans, and under the lid we actually have the color swatches so you can see what they looks like. But I'm gonna do my own swatches anyway, because it is actually one of my favorite things to do when I get new watercolors. It is to swatch them, but also that they can look a bit different when they're printed. So I just want to see what they look like in real before I start painting with them. It has a very interesting thick and creamy consistency. I don't know if it is just this yellow one, but it doesn't seem like it wants to spread out in the water when adding more to it. So usually when I do watercolor swatches, I try to pick up as much pigment as I can on the brush, and then I make like a little blob, like so, and then I take just clean water and add to the side of it, and the pigment should bleed into the water. So then I can see how the color looks like with less water and with more water. Then we have this tin case with 6 little colors in it, and they actually got little magnets in the back so that they will stay in place. I don't know what it is with little boxes, I just love them. Maybe it is the cat in me. So here we have all the colors. It is a very earthy color selection with a lot of yellows and browns and orangey tones. There isn't a lot of greens, but you could probably mix some greens yourself with the yellows and blues. They look very bright and pigmented though, which I like. Alright, so let's paint something. So I got inspired by the watercolors and that they are made out of minerals and natural materials, so I wanted to make something that was reflecting that. I suppose, or I know that many watercolors are made of natural pigments, not just these ones, but I still think it is so cool that they are prepared in traditional ways. So the earthy tones, minerals and bit of historical aspect made me come up with a fox explorer character that is collecting natural materials, like this amethyst that is holding up. I don't think Nila Colori uses amethyst in their paint, but it is a mineral at least, and I also wanted to get some purple colors in there. I might also add that I am no watercolor expert at all, so my opinion isn't really professional, but I have used a lot of watercolors in my days, so at least I can share my experience and what I think about these paints. And I don't know if these watercolors actually feels different or if I'm just imagining because I know that they are handmade, but what I noticed though is that these paints are very creamy, some of them at least, and you don't have to do a whole lot of work to get them nice and creamy and pigmented. They activate very easily when adding water to the color pan, but it doesn't feel like you're using a lot of paint because you're not really digging down into the color pan. With other watercolors that I have that are very pigmented and creamy, they are also very soft, so you kind of digs up a lot of paint at once, which results in using up the paints faster and also digging a hole down into the color pan. These colors, however, feels a bit harder but are still pigmented. And another thing I think is worth mentioning is the packaging. I love the wooden box and the tin case with a little wax seal on it. It feels minimalistic but yet luxurious. It is such a unique product with the box and the handmade paints. It is just pleasing to look at. It is what I would call delicious art supplies. I also think they mentioned in the email that they sent to me that they created the packaging not just to be visual appealing, but also to keep the retail prices in line with other retailers. So from what I can understand, by having these kinds of cases, they can keep the cost down without lowering the quality of the actual paints and still be able to compete with other brands. Still, these watercolors are not cheap, so I wouldn't really recommend them to any beginners perhaps, but knowing the story and the process behind them, I personally think the price is just fair, to be honest. The only downside I can see though is the lack of mixing areas or mixing palettes. Now I can just use a separate mixing cup, which I did, so it isn't really a problem, but I just personally like having it all in one place. I could use the lid of the tin case to mix the paints in, but there is this little color swatch card glued to it, so I don't really want to ruin that. So what I will do instead, probably, since I would really love to continue using these paints, is that I'm just gonna buy an empty watercolor case to put these in. Another thing I came to think about is that it looks like there is a lot of different colors in the booklet that they sent, but on their website there are just a few of them that you can actually buy besides the sets. But now Nila Colori is a brand new company, so maybe they are still working on filling up the stock perhaps, but I really hope there will be more single color options to buy in the future, because I would really love to get me some more greens, for example, and also be able to refill the colors I already have. So that are some of my thoughts about this product, but regarding the actual watercolors, I have nothing bad to say really. I enjoyed working with them, it was a nice experience overall. They layered very well and mixed easily, and I could do a nice gradient for the background. I was also very impressed by how easily I could pick up the colors again from the paper. I struggled a bit with what colors the leaves should be, so I first laid down a yellow that I didn't like at all against the purple, so I watered it down and picked it up again with a paper towel. Then I tried a blue that I didn't like either, so I removed it too, and it is barely visible afterward. It almost didn't stain the paper at all, so that was very nice. So yeah, it was really fun to try out these paints, and I will definitely continue using them since I really like the earthy tones in these two palettes. They all goes very well together. I do actually think that my favorite aspects about these paints is that every pan feels unique and that there is so much thoughts and passion and science and history behind them. To me personally, it brings much more life and soul to the art medium I create art with. I love the nature and it is such a big inspiration to me, and this is just one more way for me to connect with it. It may sound a bit cheesy, I know, but that is just my opinion. I love how this painting came out. I always have so much fun making these animal characters, and this is something I want to make even more of this year. So I hope you enjoyed this video and the painting. Check out the link in the description box below for even more information about the watercolors. It is very interesting reading, to be honest. So thanks Nila Colori for sending these to me to play with, and thank you guys for watching. Keep drawing my happy cats. Bye!